Hey guys, what is up? And today we are going to be starting a new series on the channel here. The first series that I'm going to do, and this is the season review series. And what this will be is me basically just going around and reviewing a lot of teams in the top flights around Europe and possibly in other parts of the world. I'm just going to basically just review their season and talk about how they did. So the team that I chose to do was Stuttgart. And they finished 17th in the league this year. And if you don't know, the bottom two teams in the Bundesliga, there are 18 teams, get relegated. And then the 16th place team enters in with a playoff for the third place team in the second Bundesliga. So it's like third worst versus third best. But Stuttgart finished 17th, which means they're in an automatic relegation spot. And I gotta say, it's kind of been coming for a few years now. Last season they finished in like 14th, I think. The season before that they finished in 15th, and they like have been having to rely on like huge managers to come in and like escape for them, such as Hub Stevens, for example. But this season it just didn't happen. They originally had Alexander Zorniga as their manager, but he was sacked in December, and then they appointed Jurgen Kramny, who, he did okay, it seemed, because the reason that their original manager was sacked was because Stuttgart were like the rock bottom team. They had only won like two games in the first half of the season, along with Hoffenheim. Stuttgart and Hoffenheim at December, it just looked like they were relegated. You could just call it right then. But Stuttgart, they sacked their manager, they appointed a new one, and it sort of seemed to be going okay in 2016 for them. They got out of the relegation zone. They thrashed Hoffenheim 5-1, and at that point I thought they were safe. I really did. But then March comes around, maybe even April, as late as that, they really start to fall apart. I mean, their defense scored like six own goals in that time, and they set the record of seven own goals in the Bundesliga. I mean, that is a lot of own goals. I don't see how you can do that in one season. Seven own goals, like, come on. They didn't even score that many for like six games in a row, and then they score seven own goals throughout the rest of the season. I mean, that is ridiculous. You guys gotta calm down there. But yeah, I was quite disappointed with Stuttgart from April onwards, and then it was sealed their relegation pretty much after a 6-2 defeat against Werder Bremen. I mean, that was just shameful. Stuttgart, they've won the league five times, now they're relegated. I mean, they were in the Bundesliga for like what, 39 years or something, and now they're relegated. And I think they just need some better players. I mean, if they're just going through a management phase where they're just not really nothing much is happening. They're just sort of hanging on in the Bundesliga. And this season they didn't hang on in the Bundesliga. And I think that can be attributed to Ingolstadt and Darmstadt. Two teams who I thought, oh, they're relegated because we've never heard of them. They haven't been in the Bundesliga in like the past like 10, not 10, I don't know, like 8 years or so. And I thought, yep, they're relegated. And all the other teams are safe. And I think that's kind of an expectation in the Bundesliga that the newly promoted teams will just go right back down. And I think that there's a lot of like established teams in the Bundesliga, and then a lot of established teams in Bundesliga too. And there's like a few drifters like Kaiserslautern and Nuremberg who sort of come up and go down and come up and go down. And yeah, I think that, this season, Ingolstadt and Darmstadt, they didn't get relegated. They actually did really well. 11th and like 13th, I think. And Stuttgart, they did not play well. But if we compare them to those other seasons, it's been about the same since then. So I think that as much of their failure this season is attributed to other teams. And I don't think it's really any of like the coach's fault or anything. I just think that they need better players. I mean, there's not very many people on their squad who you've heard of. I think that their best player by far was Daniel Dadavi. He scored some really good goals. I think he had like 13 in the whole season or something, and he will be joining Wolfsburg at the end of his contract, which is this season. So this summer he's going to Wolfsburg, which is good for him because he does not deserve to play in the second Bundesliga. And then I would have to say that their whole attack was pretty good. They had Kostic, Christian Gentner, and some other players, but their defense is really what let them down. I mean, come on. Like,